Autoweb. Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Autoweb.
What's going on, everybody? This is L.A. Williams, Vice President with Dealer Synergy and the creator of the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. Sean created everything else, but the podcast, that was me, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, as most of you know, Sean was away in Abu Dhabi over the last week or so didn't have a chance to record a podcast. So I said I was going to just go back into the archives and find a conversation that I thought would be really valuable for the listeners. So I actually went into the archives of the Against All Odds radio show. You know, Sean and I had the Against All Odds radio show all throughout 2021. We put it on pause for 2022, but we did have some really valuable conversations that never made it to the air. So, hey, why not share them with the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast listeners? So I'm going to go ahead and play this joint for y'all. I'm telling y'all going to get a whole lot of value out of this. This is the one and only President of Cardone Enterprises, Mr. Jarrod Glandt.
Sean Bradley, L.A. Dub. See, I'm the millionaire from the bottom. I used to have no money, now I got it. And all these haters mad that they are not them. Against all odds, I hustle, now I got it. See, I'm the millionaire from the bottom. I used to have no money, now I got it. And all these haters mad that they are not them. Against all odds, I hustle, now I got it.
From nothing to everything. So I want to make sure that not only do we have a strategy, but we have a commitment and accountability to that. So that leads us into today, man. And when we talk about wealth, and there's a difference of being rich versus wealthy, and there's a difference of making money versus keeping it and accumulating wealth. We have, I feel, the absolute best guest today, a friend of the show and a friend of ours, you know, Mr. Jarrod Glandt of the Cardone Enterprise or the Cardone Dynasty. What's up, Jarrod?
Dude, it's good to be here, man. Super excited to be a part of this. Love what you're doing, and excited to see you. You know, man, you've come a long way since I've known you, and so I'm happy to be here.
Nah, I appreciate that. So again, the whole theme is like, first of all, aren't you glad that 2020 is in the books?
You know, man, you're gonna kill me. Maybe people are gonna hate hearing this, but 2020 was our best year ever.
No, I love it. Okay, talk.
I say it all the time.
Yeah, I'm just, like you can come up with excuses or you can come up with actions that push you through things. And we decided that we were going to pivot as hard as we could, and that we were going to lean in, and we weren't going to become a victim of the circumstance, and got creative, and it was our best year ever.
No, listen, brother, I'd tell you right now, for the record, we had an amazing year. Probably not as good as the Cardone group, but we did pretty damn good too. Just got a radio show in the mix. But for the majority of people, it didn't pan out that way. But what I love about what you just said is, it's like, think about Jeff Bezos. He's not complaining about 2020. I mean, Amazon is crushing it, and there's other companies and entities that crushed it. I am so glad to hear that you guys crushed it as well. But before we get into the wellness and the wealth, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Because this is talking about a come-up story. I mean, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, everybody's got their story. Everybody has their challenges that they have to overcome, and some certainly have it worse off than others. I grew up middle class, which some people look at as, man, if I could have just grown up middle class, things would be so different. But that's not where the story ends. That's where it starts, right? So I grew up middle class, parents, I never really wanted for anything. We weren't going on extravagant trips. Money was on their mind. They didn't ever have freedom, but, I had clothes, I had shoes, I had food, had birthdays, like just the normal, nothing outside of the ordinary, And that part is part of the problem about getting stuck in the middle, is that, like, you have just enough to think, wow, I have more than other people, things are pretty good. And it can actually become a massive trap. When you're broke, like there ain't, you can't get lower than that. You only want to go one way. You're like, I got to go up because I can't get broker than I am right now. So for a while, I did get stuck, and I was stuck in a middle-class mentality, which is basically you're in this comfortable little box where you don't feel like you're threatened every day. And because of that, you get complacent, you get soft. And, so I grew up in a sales environment. My dad was a sales guy in retail, that. And, as I grew up, I ended up in the same environment and started selling, got a good job selling advertising, 21 years old, making like $200K a year. And then my rock bottom story started at that point. 21 years old, popping bottles every weekend, going out to the club, putting drugs in my nose, smoking weed every day. Like, every weekend it was just like, I was making all that money, had no bills, lived at home, and was broke all the time. And then ended up because I was being an idiot. I quit the job that I had because I thought there was a greener pasture. And I got cracked, and the guy ended up stealing from us. It was a startup thing. I got screwed on the deal, and then couldn't find a job. By this time I was already smoking weed and had a little bit of a drug problem. So was unemployed, on unemployment, living at a buddy's house for free because I was broke and couldn't afford rent. And that was really like when my story actually started, because that's when I realized, like, I don't want this ever. And I had to move out of that area to get out of the environment that I was in, because there was a lot of just not good things around me. And then ended up one day, 2 years down the road, after some struggle, my dad sent me a video of a guy named Grant on YouTube. Watched this video, fell all into it, like went crazy about it. And then next thing I know, like, I'm interviewing with this guy. I followed up with him, called him for a month and a half every day till I got the interview. Then finally went up to the interview, got the job, moved into a city I didn't know anybody, product I didn't know, never done the job before, like never done I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to be around this guy who nobody knew at the time other than you, Sean. And then now, and because I got in the right vehicle and busted my ass and knew that I didn't want to go back to where I came from, over 10 years later, now I'm the president of the company, and we're doing over $100 million a year in sales.
Let's go back for a second. When you first joined the Cardone's company, I believe, was it 3 employees that you guys had, and you were the number 3?
Yeah. So there was 4 when I started. We grew the team to 14, and then moved from LA to Miami and went down to 3, and then rebuilt from 3 to 148 now.
So, and that transition from 3 to 148, how long did it take? Was it 5 or 8 years?
Well, I mean, we've been in Miami for 7 years, but before COVID, we were at 185, 190. I mean, we were getting ready to crack 200 employees, and then COVID happened, and we had to, shut down a division, and had a pullback.
From 3 employees to 100 and whatever it was, that was in 7 years.
7 years, yeah, 7 years.
That is insane to me. That is absolutely insane. So how fast did it's got to be like warp speed working with Grant and all the stuff that's coming.
Oh, it's chaos. A guy like that, that's why he becomes successful, because, he has his story. He had to go to rehab. He was on drugs. He grew up without a dad, and that created a bunch of problems for him in his life. And he ended up getting in trouble. And then he was at that rock bottom place where he's like, man, I can't go any lower than I am. And I'm either going to end up dead, or I'm going to use all the energy that I have to try to get out of this. And, look how it turned out.
So I'm sure you have done some research on this for marketing purposes. I'm just curious, has there ever been a company like the Cardone company that's gone from, like a quiet secret, like, only like certain people know, like in the automotive industry, to this massive, global brand in that quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of companies that do that, in their own space. As big as Grant is, millions of followers online, there's a lot of people that never heard of him before. That's one thing that I've gotten Sean, being in this place, coming from your space, like it's a big world out there. And there's a piece of encouragement, the economy in the US. No, let's not talk about a global economy. The economy in the US is so gigantic. If you went and took $1 billion out of this economy, nobody would even know. And we get stuck because of that box that we grew up in, or because of the circumstances that we grew up in, that we're indoctrinated with this scarcity mentality, and you don't realize how much abundance there actually is. Right. And, one of the big shifts people got to go from is like, if you're winning, if LA's winning, that's actually it actually indicates that there's more opportunity out there. And people think that if Sean's crushing it and LA's crushing it, then that means there's less for me. And it's such a massive pivot point that if you can get that in, that like, dude, when you see people winning, there is an infinite amount of abundance. People can continue to create businesses, and people can continue to come up with ideas, and people who hustle and grind can always find money. Like it is more and more infinite. It's like this evergreen thing that just keeps growing. And so like that, the validation of the abundance is seeing people that are winning. And so you could tell, like, when people start throwing hate and shade on people for doing well, it's because they got that equation wrong in their head.
Let me touch on that. Jarrod, you bring up a massive point. I got to confess, because of my background, from the streets, and then my background at the car dealership, as a salesperson, you're taught that it's just you, it's not about interdependence. It's about me alone. And so when I first started my company almost 17 years ago, I had that stupid mentality of that if it's this is a funny story. Corey Mosley is technically a competitor of mine, but one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
World. And when I first, started my company, was when he started his company, and it was like Bloods and Crips. Oh, Corey Mosley's an internet trainer, and I'm an internet trainer, so he's the enemy. And it was so stupid. Then I went through the Franklin Covey, training and curriculum, and they talk about the different maturity continuums from, dependent, codependent people to independent people. But the highest place of nirvana for, mental maturity is the interdependence, which is what you're talking about. So I would agree with you. There's a lot of shade and hate because people get frustrated when people around them are winning, especially when they think that they deserve it, or they're better or smarter, got a better product or service. So what advice do you have to try to change some of these paradigms? Somebody that's like, you've met them probably, you know what I mean? People
don't hate, create.
Ooh, I like that.
Anytime you feel like any ounce of hate or envy, this is one of the most important lessons I ever learned in my entire life, and I learned it from Grant. You have to be willing to accept responsibility for everything that happens to you, around you, because if you accept responsibility for it, and sometimes that's hard for people. They want to blame. Oh, I can't because of this. I can't because of that. They got this because of that. Like it breeds this victim mentality. But if you refuse to accept responsibility, you never can have control. If I am willing to accept responsibility for the things that are happening to me or around me, then guess what? Now I'm not the victim. Now I can be at cause over it. And it's like, probably the most important lesson I ever learned in my life. Everything is my fault no matter what. Rather than blame, rather than point, rather than this. And what happens is when I accept the burden of responsibility for the things going on around me, now I'm forced to look for a solution. It's my fault. How do I fix it? It's my fault. How do I fix it? I did this. I was late to work. It was my fault. It wasn't the accident. It was because I didn't leave 10 minutes earlier. My wife's upset with me because of how I talked, or because of, we got in a fight because of how she talked to me. No, we're in a fight. It's my fault because I wasn't understanding of her perspective and communicating in a way for her so that she didn't have that type of negative reaction. Any single thing that happens to you, you can flip to where you are the one to blame. And that is the most empowering thing anybody can do. So no matter what Joe Biden says, Donald Trump says, your neighborhood says, your parents do or don't say because you did or didn't have them, no matter what, You cannot truly be at cause over the things that happen in your life until you step up and go, it's on me, all of it. And when you can accept responsibility for it, you're now in the driver's seat. And now you can do something about it.
Strong. LA, thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I recently had this conversation actually with my wife, because I'm like, hey, if it's my fault, then that means I can do something about it. Because sometimes, when people say, I want to accept responsibility, they're like, well, I don't want to accept responsibility. They'd rather it be someone else's fault. But man, no, I love what you're saying, Jarrod. It's right up my alley, man. I'm telling you.
So, Jarrod, I want to talk about this just a little bit more. Okay, so there's two different directions here as far as advice goes. To the people that have the lower maturity, philosophy as far as like scarcity and hate and shade, your advice was clear. But what is your advice to people that are not those people, but how do you deal with those people? I'd like to hear how you handle those type of people.
How do you deal with haters?
Haters, yes.
Oh, that's easy, dude. That's easy, dude. Anything that comes out of their mouth, they're saying more about themselves than they are about you. Like a hater's hate and the words that they vomit, like all they are they're communicating about themselves, their internal thoughts, their internal, misfires and frequencies in their brain waves. Like, dude, does it affect you in the beginning? Yeah. But like, that's why this thing, you gotta continue to reinforce this over and over and over again, because it's a muscle that is built. And so, dude, you just got to ignore that stuff. And if you start getting hate, just know you're actually onto something, because the hate intensifies as you start getting closer and closer to doing something amazing.
Absolutely. And that's actually part of what I say in the introduction, right? I talk about all these haters mad that they are not them, right? Because that's really what their situation is. So, man, you guys are on to something huge, but we got to take a break. We'll be right back. This is
Against All Odds.
Attention auto dealers. You need an opportunity to do business. AutoWeb is one of the largest suppliers of high quality leads. High quality buyers. At a 10% closing ratio, you will be at less than $190 per car sold. Don't just settle for what you get. AutoWeb can fully customize your results through targeted markets and/or zip codes, and as a partner, you will get premium placement within search results. Who better to do that than literally the people that invented automotive internet sales? If you want to sell more cars more often and more profitably, then you need AutoWeb.
All right, let's get back to it.
From nothing to everything.
Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, against all odds, right? That's what this thing is all about. Against all odds, how do we go from being that individual who nobody thought we would succeed to just doing it anyway, right? So, Jarrod, man, you were absolutely kicking it when it comes to the haters. So, Sean, like, I was really feeling what he was saying before the break.
Yeah, no, Jarrod, I want to just touch on the fact that you had said that was one of the top lessons you got from Grant Cardone. Now, being his protege and then becoming and ascending into the president of his entire corporation, you have a front row seat to Grant Cardone's wisdom, experience, philosophies, and strategies. Talk to this. What is that like? It's got to be a gift and a curse at some point to be that right-hand person to someone like Grant Cardone.
I know what that's like.
Like Grant has superpowers. He has things that are just, he looks at things differently. He approaches things differently, and he runs harder than anybody I've ever met or come across in my life. And what's interesting is you can't become people like that unless you are that person. Like there are things that I have that Grant could never have, and there are things that Grant has that I could never have. But as you develop as a person and you come across these people who impact you or that you learn from or that you admire, whether it's in person, whether it's somebody on social media, maybe you like to follow Will Smith or Kevin Hart or Jay Shetty or whoever. Like maybe there's somebody that you follow because you identify with them. What's important to know is that I always say, like, the easiest story to tell is the truth, right? Like, you got to stay true and just know, like, when you see things that you like, how do you make that your own? And you don't have to chase people to be exactly like them, because you'll actually lose some of the value that you have. And so for me, it's great because the things that he's great at stretch and pull me into the things that I'm not great at. That's not my superpower. And so that's how I think you ultimately grow and develop as a person. But I mean, like the conversation we're getting into right now, Sean, like you can't even have that until first you decide that you actually want something more than what you got. Ooh. And when you make that decision, people think it's easy. They're like, oh, I want more. And then they go out looking for more. That ain't how it starts. More starts with less. More starts with giving up. More starts with sacrifices. More starts with removing things before you can start adding things. That means bad habits, bad friends, bad money decisions. It involves you giving things up. That must happen before you add anything new. You want to get fit, you want to lose weight, dude. The first thing you got to do is you got to throw all the garbage food out. Like, you got to stop, going out to the bar and ordering a plate of nachos and, chicken nuggets and stuff. Like you got to stop eating like that. You got to give that up, and then you got to go do the work. And so, when you say I make a decision, just know, like something will need to be removed from your life. And the more painful it is, the closer you are to getting the right thing.
That's powerful. So Jarrod, I remember this is a while back, you did a post on Facebook, I believe, or maybe Instagram, that says like the lessons you learned from Grant. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I used to do a little thing every morning. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a fan. I follow, If you can, again, because Grant is the undercover billionaire, which, by the way, that's freaking amazing. Shout out to you guys on that with the Discovery Channel. That's amazing. Yeah. So to have somebody that's a billionaire or about to be a billionaire, again, as a mentor, what would you say a couple of the big lessons that you got from him that stuck, that have changed your life?
Big thinking money.
What do you mean?
Like just thinking, again, I had a box that I was in, right? Like I was in the middle class box. And then when I went broke and I was in a bad place and I didn't have any money, and I was like, living with people for free. I mean, at least I had a roof over my head, but like when I first went to work for Grant, the first year and a half I worked for him, I slept on an air mattress. Like I had like four article, like outfits of clothes. Like I had a borrowed car. Like I was, like it was at the bottom. And then when I started making a little bit of money, I could have easily gotten back into that comfortable vein and been like, whew, this is so much better than where I was at. But fortunately, I got a glimpse of what it was like living at a much higher level, because I got to see Grant. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him for the first year that I worked there. Like it wasn't like a mentorship thing. Like he had a home office. And so I was usually in the office by myself, but I got access to information and I consumed information. And the information was obviously it was his training, his programs and workshops and things. But that started opening me up to, I go up to this guy's house. He's got an $18 million house. He lives next door to Leonardo DiCaprio. Dr. Dre lives next door. Keanu Reeves is over on the left-hand side, like in the bird streets with all the celebrities in Hollywood. Like I go up to his house. I'm like, this dude knows something. Like, so then I'm just like, I want a piece of this. And I'm going to listen to everything this guy says. I'm going to completely brainwash myself and go all in on this because it worked. And success leaves clues. Y'all don't need to create some new plan, new path, new idea. Dude, look at somebody that did it well, that you identify with, and go deep on one person. Like, don't get all in this deal where you're watching 50 different people. Oh, I want to be like them. I want to be like them. I want to be like this. I want to be like that. I want to have that. Like find one person that you identify with, that you vibe with, and then go deep with them. And then learn everything about them, learn everything about their story, learn about who they were before they were who they are today. And that story along the way is going to tell you the steps that you need to take in your life.
So I'm going to circle back to, you said thinking bigger. To me, this is the whole concept of 10X. So can you share the concept of 10X? And I got a comment after you do.
Yeah, so the 10X rule is basically a multiplier. most people fall short in life. They come up short. They have regrets. They're at the end of the road looking back going, shit, I should have done things differently. Like, because they simply underestimated the amount of work and effort and energy it was going to take to get something done. So the 10X rule is about multiplying the amount of energy, effort, even multiplying a goal. You want to make $1 million? You need to set a $10 million goal. And that multiplier will allow you to compensate for pandemics, for elections, for taxes, for divorces, for bankruptcies. And it will put you in a position where you at least have an opportunity to be successful because your target is big enough.
Yeah. I heard there was a book out there called like 10X Rule or something like that. I don't know if I ever heard of it.
Yeah, the 10X Rule.
So
It's the Bible of the successful.
Jarrod, correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall hearing Grant say these words that were really inspiring to me. He said, listen, if I just wish that I could have thought bigger sooner. And
Yeah.
that, right? Like that.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do, man. It's easy to say. But like when you're in that spot, like I know I've been there. I know you've been there. LA, I don't know a whole lot about your story, but I'm sure you got a story too.
Best believe
Like and the people that are listening, like you probably in a point where you're like, man, $100,000 a year. If I could make 100,000, or if I could make 75,000, or maybe you're like, man, if I can make 200,000. Wait, you just wait until you get there, and you're gonna be like, that's it. I promise you. And then you will have to experience this on your own, to where you're like, wow, like now and then you wonder like why people are, the rich are classified as greedy because they keep wanting more. Like more is freedom, but more importantly, more is security. It's confidence. It's like, dude, I'm not there yet, but I'm almost in a position where I'm like, I'm good. Like I know that, like, God forbid anything happened and I broke both my legs and I couldn't go into work. Like I know that I've got passive income and investments coming in. Like I got to move out of Miami because I probably couldn't afford to live here, but I'm good. And really what that all boils down to, this concept of big, it really boils down to the 3 rules of building wealth. It's very simple to understand. And all you have to do is duplicate. You got to learn how to make money. This is step 1. You got to learn how to make money. You got to learn skills, abilities, so that you can go out and collect money from the marketplace. Number 2, you got to learn how to keep it. That means not being a knucklehead and spending it once you get it. Not trying to fake it till you make it. That's a poor man's game. What you got to do, what's better than fake it till you make it, is just make it.
That's it.
So number 1 is you got to learn how to make money. Number 2 is you got to learn how to keep it, not let it go. And then number 3 is you got to learn how to multiply it. And the multiplication is that is like the fantasy land. That's where people build wealth. That's where you get in a position where your money starts working harder for you than you work to make it. And that is the wealth game boiled down to 3 simple steps. Make it. In my space, Sean, in your space, that means you got to learn how to sell.
Yes.
You got to learn how to go out. You got to learn how to make a phone call. You got to knock on a door.
Yep.
You have to go to somebody that you don't know with a good product, a good service, and exchange money with them. Like it all starts with that. If you learn how to sell, as nasty as some of you might think that would be, replace learn how to sell to learn how to be confident. Learn how to be confident. Confidence doesn't come through some magic mindset tricks. Confidence comes because you go out and you know, if everybody stripped everything away from you, like they did with Grant in Undercover Billionaire, city, nobody knew him, no money, no name. Actually, they gave him $100 cash, no name. They gave him a cell phone and they gave him a beat up old truck. And he had to build $1 million business in 90 days. They took his hundreds of millions away from him and he had to start over with $100. And you only get to see in the show how this happens, but that is the importance of people understanding step 1, which is make money, how to make money.
Okay, so there's different ways that someone can make money. So if somebody's in a job, they're working for whatever company they're working for, I don't believe that you're going to get rich working in some government job or state job or county job or working as a toll booth clerk. However, the answer might not be to leave that job and then just start to be an entrepreneur from nothing. So there's different options. One might be that as you're working that job, so you have some security income coming through, there might be things that you could do, whether you're selling things on the internet, eBay, or you're taking a part-time job. You've got to figure out a way somehow to create additional revenue. Can you elaborate on this concept of what can you do if they're,
I mean, one of the rules of multiple flows of income is never give up your first flow before it's like fortified, solidified, and it ain't ever going nowhere.
Right.
And a lot of people violate that. They get a job and then they're like, oh, I want to go start this side hustle, but that side hustle really ain't a side hustle because it becomes a thing that they quit their job for. And then they were making 50 grand over here. They do the side hustle thing. They bust their ass. They have all the risk, and then they get that to 50 grand, and then they're back at square one, and they haven't been able to stack. So like, there's a lot of things that you can do. The first thing that you have to do is you have to commit to doing more work. Like, there's no way around this. If you are a salary job where your check's the same every month, no matter what, then from 9 until 5 or 6, like, that is your commitment obligation to that first flow. You cannot violate that. You can't violate that until your side income is 1.5x, 2x your primary income. Okay. So you have a salary gig, 9 to 5, sacred hours, can't violate it. Now what happens is you have to make a decision because you're going to get home at 6 o'clock and you got from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Like right now I've got this thing I'm building. Dude, I got a crazy job. I'm up at 5:45 in the morning, gym, kids, in the office at 8:30, leave the office at 6:30, come home. I'm a dad for 3 hours until I get the kids to sleep. And then I work until midnight. So like that is what, and so when I say I want to add something, you have to take something away. I had to take away sleep. I had to take away some free time, some relaxed time. And once I removed those things, it allowed me to place something new in there. And so I would just say, like, you got to start looking at a very different day schedule. Like, I work on the weekends. Like, you have to find time and rather create the time. And then start finding things that are closely associated with what you're doing. But don't violate that rule of giving up your first flow too soon.
So once you have this additional flow and you have more revenue coming through, what's the next step? What's that next step? So I'm working my 9 to 5, then I'm doing Uber, or I'm selling vitamins, whatever I'm doing, and I'm making extra income now.
Yeah. Well, Uber's you're trading dollars for time with something like Uber. Like, it's a great little way to make some side money, but there's no scale to it. You know, you're only going to get paid so much money for every hour that you're working, no matter what you do, and you can't create more hours in the day. So that's not a scalable side thing. That's great for some extra money, but you need to get into a business. Like, network marketing is actually a great spot for people because it gives you the ability to be paid based on your production, your performance, the work that you put in. You know, I'd say that's probably one of the key ingredients you need to look for in a side hustle. If you're a salaried person now, is you got to find something where you get paid for how much you work, and you get paid on the production that you have. So if I go out and I produce 100, I get paid on 100. If a salaried gig, you get one check, no matter if you do 100 or 50. And so you got to get into back to what I said about responsibility and control. Like, you need to get into a position where you can start having some control over your success. And that requires that you are paid based on your commitment, your performance, your work ethic.
Performance, that is the key here, not attendance. You know what I mean? So you can make as much money as you can earn theoretically, and the key word is to earn. So I'll give an example here because we're both also in the automotive industry. You know, one thing that people don't realize is that a lot of these dealerships will give referral fees. I know some stores that give $200-$300 bird dogs referral fees. So if I'm working a 9 to 5, especially if I'm if I'm a waiter, waitress, or if I'm working as a gym, attendant at a fitness club, I have access to a lot of people. So you could get creative just by recommending stuff to car dealerships or real estate agents, insurance companies. You could get paid on performance. And then you said network marketing. So other things. Jarrod, I lobbied that one up about the Uber because I was hoping you're going to jump on it. That's exactly it. People think that, that just because they got a secondary job, that job is the answer, but it's not if it caps your potential is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, you have to make a decision. We just did this 3-day event, it's a business boot camp. And the first thing that we talked about is you have to make a wealth decision. Like, you have to define what wealth means for you. And then you, again, have to start making decisions, and you have to decide how important it is for you to get paid. And you got to know what that looks like. Is paid 250 grand a year? Is paid $1 million a year? Is paid $3 million a year? Like, what is paid to you? And when you make that decision and you're committed to that decision, all of the decisions that you make in your life need to be focused on, is this moving me closer to that, or is it moving me further away from it? And it requires sacrifice. Dude, that's why there's only 1% of the people that have all the wealth in the world, because it ain't easy. Like, there's temptation. It requires discipline. It requires sacrifice. And that's why people end up broke and stay broke, because they get stuck in a 9-to-5. They're getting paid hourly. They're getting paid a salary, and they can't ever break out of that, because when they get home, they want to chill. They want to go grab a drink at happy hour. They don't want to work on the weekends. Like, you got to flip the script and just know, like, there's infinite amounts of opportunity for you to make we live in the greatest freaking country on the planet. And anybody from any background, no matter where they grew up, no matter what color their skin is, can be massively successful. Yep. You just look at the Forbes list and go through every single person on there. There's a lot of family money. There's a lot of people that had different opportunities than others. But dude, you don't have to go far before you start finding stories about people who grew up in the wrong neighborhood, who were in trouble all the time, who had problems and issues, who didn't have a dad or a mom. Like, dude, you don't have to go very far before you can start finding people that were massively successful despite their circumstances. The thing that they did is they made a decision and they made sacrifices. And every single person can be successful if they make a decision, they make sacrifices, and then they educate themselves with skills so that they can perform.
Sounds like what you're saying is against all odds. They just figured it out. That's what I'm talking about, Jarrod.
Yeah.
So Jarrod, let's now get to the next level. So now, however we get there, whether we are working at a certain job and we have our side hustles that are bringing us performance-based, income in, we have different streams coming in, however we get there, or we decide to take the plunge, we leave the dead-end job and we decide to turn around and start this business or this idea that we've had. Let's now say that somebody's making money. What are the best things to invest in your opinion?
No matter what, there's no such thing as get rich quick. We have a saying around here. We go, we're not about get rich quick. We're about get rich for sure. And when you make a wealth decision and you want to play a get rich for sure game, you make different decisions. That's why big investors, they look at a return when they go, oh man, I can make 6% or 8% or 10% or 12% a year. They jump all over it, and it's a secure asset, and it's a secure vehicle, and it's a secure return, and there's low risk. That's why they put their money there. When you're broke, you're like, man, how do I double up this $5,000 that I got? You make wrong decisions. You make short-term decisions, and then you end up in short-term problems, which is higher risk. Oh, that dude burned me. My dad was trying to flip, my dad, he was trying to import some limes from Peru, got hooked up with this guy. They were like, oh yeah, I'm going to make 20 grand. I'm gonna make this 20 grand. Dude, their limes got stuck in customs. The limes went bad. They lost all their money.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to make short money on a quick flip. Now that's not to say that you can't go out and make a little bit of money like that, but that can't be your primary strategy. And for me, it's real estate. I invest in multifamily. I knew nothing about it. Apartment buildings, I knew nothing about it. I learned it all from Grant. I adopted this from him because it provides a monthly check. The stock market, I can put money in.
I want to go back real quick. I'm stopping you on purpose because there's a story I want you to tell about that $100,000 that you told us last time we spoke. I thought it was amazing, but I want to go a step before that. What about yourself? because from my philosophy is I think the number one investment that someone could have is investing in themselves. Because if you invest in something and that thing, evaporates and you don't know how to make money, you just got lucky when you hit a home run. You invest in yourself, whether that's Cardone on Demand or Bradley on Demand, or it's, training, or it's going to the 10X conference or the IS20G. I believe that investment in yourself and educating yourself is one of the top investments. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, you invest in yourself, then you invest in your business, and then you invest in assets.
Perfect. So I know that we've been going like lightning fast. And so before we get into the real estate side of things, because Cardone Capital is just a juggernaut of a company. It's amazing. So I want to reiterate that you just heard it from Jarrod that we're on the same page. Invest in yourself, invest in your business, and then invest in these assets and things like that. So let's now jump back into the real estate side. Can you tell that story? Because LA's very-
So I was broke first year, air mattress, that whole deal, no money. At that point I had started making a little bit of money and was just the cheapest person on the face of the earth, because I was like, I never wanted to go down to zero again, have to borrow money again. Like I didn't want to go down that road again. So I was cheap, man. Like I could squeeze a dime out of a nickel. Like it was, I could make magic happen with money. Because I didn't want to go back to that place. That's it. And I remember I got to a point where I had $100,000 saved up, and I was 27 years old. And I was like, I don't know what to do with it. Like it's the most money I've ever seen in a bank account in my life. Like my parents never had $100,000 cash in a bank account. So like, I'm like, what do I do? And I asked Grant, and he's like, hey man, this is all on you. I haven't offered this to anybody but my brother and my sisters. But if you want to put that $100,000 in one of my real estate deals, I'll let you do it. And so I put $100,000. I wrote a check for $100,000 at 27 years old, and I exchanged that $100,000 for, I think at the time it was about $900 a month in cash flow. So I put $100,000 out into a secured asset. I had no idea how secure it was at the time. I didn't know if I was going to lose it all. But then I started getting these checks for $1,000 a month, $900 a month, $1,100 a month. As rents get paid, they collect the rents, they cover the expenses of the property, and then whatever's left over goes back to the investor. They pay the debt, they pay the bank, they pay the property management company, they fix toilets and stuff when they break, and then anything that's left over goes back to the investor. So I started getting these checks, and then I started making more and more money because I was focused on that first thing, which is make it. You got to learn how to make the money. Then I ended up with 9 months later, he refinanced that deal that I had put money in, that I put that $100,000 in. 9 months later, I got a check back for $30,000.
Wow. And
he said, I just refinanced it. We had an equity event. Here's $30,000. You don't have to pay any taxes on it.
What? Wait. We're going to have to come back and talk about this one, because everybody want to hear about that. I know they We'll be right back.
Attention auto dealers. You need an opportunity to do business. AutoWeb is one of the largest suppliers of high quality leads. High quality buyers. At a 10% closing ratio, you will be at less than $190 per car sold. Don't just settle for what you get. AutoWeb can fully customize your results through targeted markets and/or zip codes, and as a partner, you will get premium placement within search results. Who better to do that than literally the people that invented automotive internet sales? If you want to sell more cars more often and more profitably, then you need AutoWeb.
From nothing to everything.
All right. So I know we want to talk about the taxes and everything like that, but I know there's some other points that you guys want to make. We're getting ready to close this thing out, but I definitely want to hear more.
Well, dude, if you don't want to pay taxes, buy real estate. Because I got that $30,000, I didn't pay tax on it. Keep in mind, that was $100,000. Like, that was the biggest check I ever wrote. Like I was scared to death. Like, I didn't even know if I could go back and create that money again. But getting rid of that money, this is important to note, getting rid of that money took me down to zero again. Now I had to go get another $100,000. Yeah. And so when you can play that stay broke game, that's why I said learn how to keep it. Keep it really doesn't mean hold on to it. Keep it means get it somewhere where you can't touch it and put it somewhere where you can then multiply it. And so I got that $30,000 check, didn't have to pay taxes on it. By the time I was ready to do that, I had another stack of money to put in. I invested the next chunk of money. 6 months later after that, I got 90 grand back on that deal. And this just silliness just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. I mean, I've got millions invested with him now, but it would have never happened if I was looking to double my 100 grand in 12 months. And I was trying to do some shortcut investment maneuver, chasing some fairy tale fantasy land investment. Like you got to get down to like, make the wealth decision, commit to learning how to make money. Don't be an idiot, keep it, and then put it somewhere where you can multiply it.
Jarrod, I want to isolate this right here. A lot of people have been taught and brainwashed by their parents and their relatives to save money. You can't accumulate wealth by just saving and scrimping along. And one of the things that I got from Grant too is you need to invest your money the right way, like you said earlier, so that money could work for you. Can you just touch on that point again, that it's important not just to keep that cash just sitting in your bank account and collecting dust?
Well, yeah. I mean, like the average savings rate or money market account is like 0.0225% or something like that. So a 6% return annually or a 10% return annually, you're earning like 80 times what the bank is paying you. Like if it would take, I think the math is, it would take like 60 or 70 years for your money to double at that rate.
Yeah, it's called the rule of 72. Yep.
Yeah, the rule of 72. It takes 72 years for your money to double at that rate.
1%.
So it's insane. And so when you go, well, how's this other thing work? Like Grant's deals, like they project a 2 to 3x return over 10 years. So I can 3x my money in 10 years or 1x my money in 72 years. Which deal you want?
Absolutely. So Jarrod, we're about to wrap up the show. First of all, it's been amazing having you on here, but I want you to, if you could go back, because you're still young, but if you could go back when you first, got into business, what would you tell Jarrod, back then with the knowledge of Jarrod of today?
Well, I wish I would have just, at 21 years old, I wish I would have just not been an idiot. Who knows? Maybe that's the thing that actually allowed me to be successful, because I was making 200 grand and thought I was, the man, like I had more money than all my friends. So maybe I needed to get cracked to learn the lesson and to have that pain. But I would go all the way back. I'd say, dude, you have to learn to become a master of selling. You got to learn to be able to go up to anybody and exchange with them. You need to learn how to make cold calls like your life depends on it. Because if you can sell and you can pick up the phone and you can sell somebody over the phone, you can start a company, you can launch a product, and you can become immensely wealthy.
Absolutely. Blind phone master here.
So tell us about this 10X Growth Con. How do we find out details about it?
Yeah, so 10xgrowthcon.com is the site. It's our annual event where we bring, like last year we had Kevin Hart, John Travolta, Sarah Blakely, Bethany Frankel, Damon John, Floyd Mayweather, Magic Johnson, Usher, Snoop Dogg, Rick Ross, Dana White, Scooter Braun. It's a stacked event where we bring people from all different backgrounds and different industries, but celebrities, to talk about success. And again, it's the reinforcement that I talked about earlier. Seeing other people win and how they got there is an indicator of what's possible, not an indicator that there's less available for you. And so we bring them for this event so that they can come and see what's possible and blow up. 10xgrowthcon.com is the site.
You got to go, man. I've gone for the last several years. It is fantabulous and well worth the investment.
Absolutely, man. When we were in Miami, just what y'all did, like just the environment was absolutely phenomenal. So yeah,
that was 30,000 people in Miami.
That was crazy.
Wow. Anyway, so yeah, man. So continue on, man, because I really do. First of all, I definitely want to thank you for taking the time out to come hang out with us, man. I'm telling you, it's been a blast. But Sean, I mean, kind of go ahead and close this thing out, man, because I know we only got a couple more minutes.
Me again, Jarrod said it earlier. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. There's a blueprint to success. We're listening to a young multimillionaire that has gone from nothing, literally from nothing, to everything and on a global level. So these nuggets that Jarrod has dropped are priceless. So make sure that you listen to this and you catch the reruns on the podcast. Again, so Jarrod, again, it's just been an honor to speak with you and kind of pick your brain. And I appreciate your time.
You got it.
Yeah, man. So Sean, man, he was absolutely killing it when he was talking about, just you got to set aside some stuff, right? You can't continue to have everything. And when he mentioned about, what he had to do at 20 some years old, he said he had to eliminate, some of the stuff that was going on in his life. He had to kind of become broke, right? That was him removing, right? He was actually following his own advice without even realizing it. You see that?
I loved what he said, LA, about to get more, you have to have less. Okay. And that just like hit me right between the eyes because it's so true. If you want more, what are you willing to give up to be able to get that? Again, that analogy he did was fitness is perfect. Is if you want abs of steel, you got to stop shoving your face with Twinkies. Right. I mean, you can't sort of have abs of steel and be physically fit and keep doing the dumbass stuff that you're doing before. Yeah. So there's just nugget after nugget. I can't wait to listen to this again.
Absolutely. You can always go back and check it out. Like he said, it will be podcasted. So wherever podcasts, listen to it on your Apple Podcast, your Spotify, all that different places. All that stuff is going to be there for you, man. This is Against All Odds. This is the place where the people come, man. All of the people who the world said were supposed to be nothing. Listen, against all odds, you got to go out and be everything. Go out and get any and everything that you want out of life. So if you can do that, man, I'm telling you, you could be our next guest on Against All Odds. So thanks so much, everybody, for listening. We'll check y'all out.
Against all odds.
So there you have it, the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. This podcast comes to you every week from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you have a question about the show or would like the chance to become a guest, feel free to contact us directly at 856-546-2440 or email us at millionairecarsalesman@gmail.com. This program is a presentation of Synergy Records, produced by Tiana Mick and L.A. Williams. Production and engineering by L.A. Williams. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is hosted every week by L.A. Williams and the Millionaire Car Salesman himself, Sean V. Bradley. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast can be found everywhere, so please don't forget to review, subscribe to, and share the show. Thanks for listening to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, and remember, where I'm from, money provides options. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is sponsored in part by Autoweb. If you enjoyed this podcast, then make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave us a review. Let some other folks know about it. Oh, and don't forget to join the Millionaire Car Salesman group on Facebook. We'll see you there.